If you've been enjoying R4E, the Reason for Everything podcast, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to R4E, the Reason for Everything podcast. I'm your host, Arjan, and today's guest is Bailey Pumfleet. Bailey and I got connected on Instagram a couple of weeks ago and really excited for our conversation. Bailey, you're based in the UK, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Excellent. Where about are you?
Just on the outside of London.
Okay, terrific. Well, thanks for making the time. Excited to, learn more about you and your journey. Like I said, got connected on Instagram. I've seen you on a couple of different mediums before and would love to just give you a chance to introduce yourself to my audience and can go from there.
Yeah, I'm Bailey, one of the two co-founders of cow.com. I'm somewhat of a technical co-founder, very hands-on, product-driven, still to this day as much as possible. And I'm very much here and along for the ride.
What was the impetus for starting cow.com? Again, you mentioned you're one of the more technical founders, or I guess the more technical founder of the business, but what was really the launch pad for you guys getting this business started?
Yeah, so the key thing is I've been using Calendly for a long time, like many people, and also like many people have often been frustrated with some of the limitations of the products that are out there, whether that be, any of them on the scheduling market. And so I'm a builder at heart. Me and my co-founder are both people who just enjoy building products. And so, to us, when we see a problem in life, we like to just directly build the solution to that. And so that's exactly what we did. I worked on it for about 3 weeks alongside my, at the time, full-time job and put together just a super basic MVP and launched that on Product Hunt. And pretty much the story goes on from there.
Love it. And we'll dive into that here in a moment. Before we do, I'm very familiar with Calendly just from my professional job, from scheduling on this podcast. And to your point, it has its limitations. For those who are unfamiliar with Calendly or modern day co-scheduling software, give us the quick, high level elevator pitch of cow.com and how someone would think about your all's tool.
So, a lot of the scheduling products out there are great. Calendly is a great product. SavvyCal is a great product. They're good. But the thing is they're only good at doing the most basic of scheduling requirements. If you fit into their super niche, small use case, just very straightforward, simple scheduling, then, they're good. But the point is this is scheduling we're talking about. This is people's time. It's one of the most complex things. It's one of the most important things. And none of them out there go quite so far as to, fully enable you to make scheduling work for you properly on your own terms, with your own pipeline as to how you want to schedule things and what you want to do as part of the booking. For instance, we're sat here using Riverside to host this podcast call, and pretty much none of the others have an integration for that. And you want that to be part of your pipeline. So with cow.com, you can just have it do all of this stuff automatically rather than you having to send me a link before the event. Much greater flexibility and control as to what kind of times you're offering. Cow.com is definitely way more favored to more busy people with more hectic schedules, especially if you're, traveling across different time zones around the globe, different hours depending on where you are. Different requirements as to, like, my scheduling link is public. It's cow.com/Bailey. Everybody knows it. If that was a Calendly link, me mentioning it here, people would then go and spam my calendar full of all sorts of rubbish. But we have features which allow you to, actually protect your calendar. To sum it up into one, we listened to every single feature that the community has wanted from us and has wanted for all of our competitors for the last 10, 12 years that they've been around. And we built every single one of those features.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, plenty of use cases even in just getting this conversation going. We went from Instagram to scheduling on cow.com to me having to send, I guess I sent you an invite through Google Calendar, then I had to send you a separate Riverside link. So I see the use case and excited to dive in further. But to that end, I'd love to learn more about your background and your story. So, as you mentioned, you're calling in from London today, but get me up to speed of, did you always think you were going to be a entrepreneur founder, or what was your upbringing like? What's the context for what got you here today?
To some degree, yes, I did always want this, through one way or another. I never truly guessed that it would be through calendar scheduling of all things, but being a founder, especially a software startup founder, was absolutely the goal. I mean, I come from a very regular background. I live on a small town on the edge of London. And in the UK, you can there's a small little loophole you can do to get out of school at 16 and not continue education till you're 18 or above. And as soon as I had the opportunity to do that, I did. At 16, I then went and got a job where I did a bit of software development for a very small company. And while I was there, I was thinking about, potential opportunities to build something of my own. And I built a few things here and there, but one of the big ideas that I then had was, okay, let's build the calendar scheduling tool to solve all of my problems with that. So as I was approaching 18, I then started building cow.com and launched it actually right around the time when I became 18. And so I can't really say I have an extensive CV with, 20 years of experience through any of the big firms, but I found a shortcut in life, I guess, and I took it.
You're definitely the superior mathematics brain on this call, but doing math here, if you started the business in 2021 when you were turning 18, you're 20 years old right now and you have your business up and running. Is that right?
Correct, yeah. Don't ask me too many complicated math questions. I did say that I dropped out at 16, didn't really complete the education on that front.
Fair enough. Well, what was your parents' reaction when you were telling them you wanted to take that fast track drop at 16? Were they okay with it and supportive, or did they were they frustrated? What was that like for you? What was that conversation like?
No, absolutely. I come from what I'd call a very normal, sort of working class background. My dad never. I don't think anyone in my family growing up ever really attended school, let alone did it till 16. So they've always been workers of the mentality of just get out there and do things, which actually I think is very applicable not just to those industries that my father, grandfather, and so on did, but I think that applies to a lot of things in life. I found that especially when it comes to doing things like learning to code, learning to do this or that, I always have placed much more of an emphasis on don't sit there and spend 6 months reading a book. Just get out there, do it, and learn while you're doing it, which I think, resonated well between me and my family there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I had the pleasure of going through Scrum Master and Scrum Product Owner training a couple of years ago and really kind of started to understand the world of software development, again, as an outsider. But that was my first exposure into the world of MVP. And I found so much value and merit in learning that, or value in that and merit in the idea of MVP. And I feel like so many people in modern day business are afraid to fail and fail often. And there's so many founders and creators in your seat that I've spoken with that constantly share how important it is to just go and start building, go and start doing, go and start creating, because you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. And then two, it's hard to really gain that experience unless you actually go out and do it. And so to that end, I guess, as you're getting the first iterations of Cal.com started, what was that like for you? How did you meet your co-founder? And did you guys say, hey, we wanted to address these 5 problems, and you boiled it down to Cal.com? Or what was that process like as you were getting the business off the ground?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, ironically, me and my co-founder actually kind of bumped into each other on an email chain looking for the exact same thing. So I remember back even a good year or so before I actually started working on Cal.com, is I actually was searching up like open source Calendly alternative, more extensible scheduling tool, those kind of things on Google. And for years there was one Reddit thread where somebody was asking for this exact same thing, and there were like people in the comments like, yeah, I'd love to see something like this, but it didn't exist. Ironically, we both, before we even met each other, were on that very same path, and then went on very much the same sort of Reddit threads and made the same Google searches. And, one day we actually sort of came together both looking for that same thing and then decided, hey, what if we team up and build this ourselves? And we're both of very similar mentalities. For a guy that I've randomly met on the internet, we have incredibly similar, personalities and values in a lot of these senses. And we are both very much like, build it, just get out there, execute, learn and improvise on the spot. There are obviously a whole host of new challenges and curveballs that have been thrown at us in the 2.5 years or so that we've had cow.com. And obviously, running a business now of this size, I don't think either of us have ever been formally qualified to do that. But it's rather been quite an exciting journey. And I myself, I always preach improvisation and things like that, and just wing it, get out there, do it, see what you can do, try and see the limit of your potential. And I think that that's something that we've both really executed on over these years.
Now the business has been around for 2.5 years now. How many employees do you have? What's it like managing at your age? What have been the challenges and learning opportunities that you've faced as a young startup founder?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we're at about 25 people at the moment, and we try and keep the team size as small as possible because I've always been, throughout my very short career, I guess, I've always been the kind of guy that says, like, I know what I'm doing. Stop breathing down my neck and let me get on with it. I'm here to execute. Like, if I've got some manager asking me every 2 seconds, what's going on? What's the update on this? I'm like, no, let me just do this. So we always try and apply that to the team. We've always tried to give them as much flexibility as possible, as little bureaucracy and oversight. I hate, unnecessary bureaucracy. And so we try and keep the team size small, that we can keep that environment, that I know every single member of the team personally, that I have a good relationship with them, that, I'm able to effectively manage them without having to have all of these sort of like middle managers and have, an organizational flowchart that's like impossible to read. So it's been a great journey. I mean, we've been very fortunate in some sense to have just such incredible amount of people on the team. Obviously, along the way, there have been some that didn't quite make the cut and, have departed. But I think that over the few years, we've formed what is an absolutely incredible team. There's no group of people I trust more to, execute on this vision. And, to your point about what sort of challenges may I have faced as a young founder, I mean, there is absolutely an element of prejudice that I have had to face. For a long time, I sort of had to gloss over things about my age, and that was always sort of like a difficult point. Unless I was directly asked, I'd try and smooth over that because inherently there is a lot of prejudice there. I'm very fortunate that now we've seen the success that cow.com has seen. I've already effectively proven myself to the world that, although there is still an element of prejudice, it's at least combated by, the success that cow.com has. I'm always, I never take any note of how old people are because I don't think that defines anything about them. It's about, who you are, what your values are, what your maturity is, and how you execute. And I hope that I've been, practicing what I preach in a sense, where I've shown that I can achieve whatever. And I don't have to necessarily answer to anything about my age specifically. And I wouldn't expect that of anybody else. We actually have, in general, our team swings somewhat on the low end. We have plenty of other people around my age. I think we have about 17 to 21. We have a good few people within that sort of age range as well on the team. So, yeah, just super inclusive of all ages and backgrounds.
Super interesting. Yeah, it's I feel like going to be more and more common for young founders to be leading teams with folks that are more senior than them, and I feel like the prejudice will just continue to go away, but it's definitely still there in the workplace. I hear about it from my friends and peers in my network as well. Now, one of the questions that really kind of piqued my interest in getting you on the show in the first place. I've done so much digging into different time management softwares. Like I've said, I've tried every possible calendaring tool under the sun until I came across cal.com. I've tried the physical planner. I've tried the virtual planner. I've gone, across the full gambit of time management tools. But what was it? I mean, when you're 18 or so getting this business started, what were you juggling between? Was it your, job and social life, or what were you really trying to address in the problem of building cal.com when you first started? Because, I could understand, and I say this as respectfully as possible, I could understand as a 40-year-old that's managing, wife, family, kids, trying to go to their 9-to-5 job and everything else in between. I feel like life was, now that if I think back on it, I'm only a few years older than you. When I think back on it, my life at 18 was pretty simple. So what problem were you trying to address at 18 for time management that got you to start this business in the first place? And like I said, I say that as respectfully as possible. I'm just curious.
No, of course. I've always been, I've always kind of like shot above my age gap. So even in the young years, I mean, I started my first business at like 16, did like I used to do web development on the side and some, web application development, things like that. So I've always kind of dove into these things earlier than what you typically expect, at least. But, as well as, I can't say I was like hugely impacted by the challenges of existing things. I mean, I did run into some limitations about, Calendly across time zones and, managing different availability schedules. Because bear in mind, I had a full-time job. I was running my contracting business on the side, also doing a few other things to manage across those three different types of schedules. I did see some limitation. But I think one of the things which has enabled us to succeed is how we understand everybody else's individual needs as well when it comes to scheduling. Because like I said originally at the start of this, is everybody has wildly different scheduling requirements. Time is such a complex thing. And I don't know what the scheduling complexities are for the top fault, and I don't understand what the scheduling complexities are with all sorts of other people with their use cases. But what we do is we really listen to these people, understand their workflow, and then build the appropriate solution for them. Which is why our tagline has always been scheduling infrastructure for absolutely everyone. And that wasn't a tagline that our marketing team came up with after a lot of thought because it's catchy. It's maybe the first way that we ever described cal.com, and I think it's something that's always resonated with us since, is the idea that for everybody, regardless of their use case, that this is one platform that will tackle everything you need to. I speak with so many people out there, because obviously I'm always trying to pitch cal.com to other companies and other people. And I say to them, why don't you use cal.com? They say, oh, we have some very, very niche requirement. We've tried all of the products out there. None of them do it. And I'm like, try me. And then they tell me what it is. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we've been doing that for years. And they're like, what, really? That's the idea. Scheduling infrastructure for absolutely everybody. And that's why we've listened to every voice of the community, every suggestion, every issue, and iterated the product based on that and built 3 times the features of any next leading competitor. Because the idea is that we have a plethora of options that let you manage time on your own terms.
Is there an existing feature in the product today that was just an absolute headache, or an existing integration that was just like, kept you up at night that isn't there today that you didn't know if it was going to make it at a certain point in the dev process?
I honestly think one of the most surprising things that we built, and we built this like super early on, within the first month or so after launch, is called opt-in bookings. So like I said earlier, my cal.com link is public. You can literally Google it. And rather than like automatically filling up my calendar with any other scheduling tool, it's going to then automatically place these spam useless calls into my calendar. Then I'm going to have to go in and cancel that, which isn't great because like sometimes people want to book me and I'm like, hey, look, this could be an email. I don't want to be rude, but it's not worth our time to jump on a call. It would get booked into my calendar, they'd get a confirmation, then I'd have to cancel it. Like, that just seems weird to me. Why can't I just ask them for context beforehand? So we did something called opt-in booking. When you now go to book me, it's going to ask you questions about who you are. But when you go to my link, you've got a few things. Are you an investor? Are you another founder looking for product advice? Every different category of call I have, and it will collect, certain answers from you based on that. So if you're an investor, it'll be, okay, are you angel or a VC? What kind of rounds are you interested in? What's your kind of check size? I can collect that information, and then it's going to send me an email to say somebody has requested a meeting with you, not necessarily booked. I can then view the information, and then I can accept or reject it. Now, people have been screaming for something like this for literally about 10 years, and none of our competitors have built it. Why is that? I don't know. Even since we shipped it 2 years ago, and that's been a massively, massively popular feature with cow.com, and we talk about it all the time, still they haven't built it, which is weird. I think another thing worth mentioning that goes into this is we speak of integrations. So about 2 months ago, I met up with a founder of a video conferencing platform. It's basically a new, super low latency, really good video integration with Calendly. And so he reached out to Calendly and he said, can we get an integration? They said, it probably won't be within a year. So he waited the whole year, hoping for an email from them. Nothing. Gets to the end of the year and he reaches out like, hey, I've waited the whole year. Like, where's the integration? And they said, we can't do it for at least another year. That's 2 years that he has been waiting for a Calendly integration. Bearing in mind as well, when you book something with somebody online using any scheduling link, what are you doing 90% of the time afterwards? Getting on a video call. That's like the whole point of them. So if you're not going to have an extensive suite of video integrations, that's not going to help you very much. And not everybody likes to just use Zoom or Google Meet, So it would have taken at least 2 years, and he still hasn't got this integration with Calendly. It'll be at least 2 years. Whereas, on the other hand, with cow.com, we are the only scheduling product that has a full-on App Store framework. What I mean by that is you can literally just scaffold and build an app to go into our App Store, publish it yourself. It just gets reviewed by our team in like less than a day. So he spent about 3 hours, just coded the integration. Because we're fully open source, he can just jump into our repository, build an app. 3 hours, it was approved by our team like straight away, done. He had an integration practically within the same day with us, whereas it would have took 2 years with Calendly or, any other leading alternative. And I think that just illustrates the kind of difference of what cow.com is all about. We have an absolutely insanely big app store of apps. Like I say, even including this very platform that we're hosting the podcast on. Nobody else has, this amount of integrations, but this is just part of the reason why, I'm not trying to be the overselling founder here to say, oh yeah, we're better than everybody else and not give any substance to why that is. But, we're really here to shoot for being the scheduling platform that everybody uses, not a competitor of so-and-so. And, part of the reason we're doing that is, much more comprehensive feature set, a much more comprehensive app store. And that's just the beginning.
No, man, it's super interesting. And I asked that question because I've tried to poke in and add other integrations, and I've had the problems myself. So I'm the one asking you these questions, so it's not overselling at all. It's more just my own interest. One of the things you mentioned that comes to mind, you mentioned the open source platform. You guys started in June of 21. About 15 months later, 16 months later, ChatGPT was released by OpenAI. What has the onset of all of the LLMs, how has that affected your all's business, positive, negative? What does that look like for you guys in the war room as founders?
Yeah, I really love this question, and this question was actually asked to us by somebody on our board and also one of our investors a little while ago, and I really love this question because it's one of those where I get to answer the question with a grin, because I think that, we're very safe against AI, that I don't think that it poses any risk necessarily to our business, but more of a positive. So scheduling is so incredibly complex, and so much of a big picture, a network of all sorts of different logic and things like that. If anybody wants to go through the cow.com code base and look at exactly how it is you get those available times on your screen, I'm sure you understand exactly what I mean. Now, there's not that many proper full-featured scheduling platforms out there, and the reason for that is the complexity. Now, I mean, I'm a big user of ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot, all of those sort of apps, especially when it comes to software development. And the thing I always find is it misses the big picture. It will give you the little code snippet, but it won't understand the context of your whole project. And like I said, scheduling is a very much big picture thing. So AI isn't going to be coming for any of our scheduling logic or anything like that. It doesn't. At the moment, with current capabilities, it can't really grasp everything there. Also, cow.com is a whole network of people. We have a huge networking effect. One of the biggest, coolest things, me and say my co-founder at the same time, with any other leading product, you'd have to pay to create a team with them, then name the team something. So say it's me and Pierre, my co-founder. You'd have to buy a team for like $20 a month, name that Bailey and Pierre, then give out the team link. Like, none of that is making sense to me if you just want to book 2 people. With cow.com, you do cow.com/Bailey plus Pierre, or Bailey plus Pierre plus Steve plus John plus whatever. And that's the networking effect of cow.com coming into play. You can, have any group of people meet. And so I think that, part of our moat as well is just the incredible user base that we have, and in future will have. Now, saying that with AI, when I say it's not a negative, it's a positive. So a little while ago, we launched cow.ai, which basically, instead of going to cow.com/Bailey and, choosing through the dates and the times, we made a completely new way to interface with cow.com and schedule here. And what that is say you email me saying, "Hey, Bailey, you want to come on the podcast?" Well, when you actually messaged me, I think I was away, I was traveling. I said, "Oh yeah, I can't do this until mid-December." What I can do is I can just forward that via email or soon SMS, anything. I can forward that to bailey@cow.ai, or whatever your username is, @cow.ai. And what it's then going to do is I can then forward it and say, "Okay, I'm away until mid-December. Can you put something in the calendar mid-December, but do it in the afternoon?" And it will just go ahead and do that. And obviously it's going to use GPT and such to understand the meaning of the stuff. You can ask it to reschedule events, cancel events. And as well as that just being super cool, and the fact that we all now basically have a personal assistant without having to pay for a personal assistant, it's cool on one hand, but something that really comes to mind with me is that this enables, say, like the older generation of people that, don't really want to go searching through an interface to configure and schedule things like that. They can now describe using natural language what they want. Book this in at this time, do this at this, and the platform's going to do it for them. Now, AI is only providing the natural language interface here, core scheduling platform. And that's where our moat really is.
Super cool. Yeah, I came across that feature and it piqued my interest. Like I said, I've tested all these products. Part of it is I think just the optimizer in me that I'm trying to figure out what the most efficient way to get this stuff done is. But I haven't come across a solution that works. So I'm excited to continue to dig in further. For you, I guess, again, I apologize for keep bringing it up, but it's fascinating to me. So you're 20 years old. You're co-founding this business, a team of 25 plus. What are you using cow.com for outside of business? Are you using it to schedule, I guess, the drink agent? If you're scheduling it to, go get a pint with your friends, or are you using it to, schedule time for, transportation? What other modems are you using the tool for that someone might not think about outside of like a business use case?
Definitely. So I think this is where cow.com in particular comes into play, because like I say, this is about managing multiple schedules, doing multiple things. So what I'm doing here is, so I've obviously got, cal.com for booking regular events, and like I say, I've got stuff for investors, stuff for founders, stuff for team members. But for instance, obviously I work within the UK time zone, and we have team members across the globe. So I actually have for the team is like a secret out of hours link that isn't shown to anybody. Because if I need to jump on a call at 9 p.m. at night to chat through something with a teammate who's in Asia or something like that, yeah, that's fine. Like, I will take that call for a team member, but I don't want just everybody booking me there. So I can have the extra availability schedule going there. I schedule a lot of meetups with friends and things like that, especially, where everybody's working different schedules and things like that. Very useful for that. And once again, there, if I'm scheduling meetups with friends, I've then got that pretty much wide open, from like the time that I wake up until midnight or something like that. That also really plays well when traveling. So, if I'm headed to New York or San Francisco or something like that, if I know, okay, next week I'm going to be there between these dates, what I do is I set up a specific availability schedule for that to say, okay, you can book me for a meetup in New York between the 25th and the 27th. And then I can then send that out to all my friends in New York, and they can book in the correct time zone, not booking me in my London time zone that I'm at currently, but booking me at the New York time zone, which I will be in the future, and only between the dates when I'm actually there. And then, yeah, like I did that last time I was around in New York and San Francisco. I just send out the relevant link to whoever, whoever's in my network from either place, and my calendar can then just start filling up with a ton of, hanging out with friends, meetups, things like that in the right time zone automatically. There aren't other scheduling tools that can do that. And honestly, I think that's one of my favorite personal use cases of what we've built here at Cal.
I love, I can hear your kind of excitement and enthusiasm through and passion for the product through the screen here. So, and through the microphone or speakers, I guess. Still early in US time, Billy, but no, it's super cool, and it's a issue. I mean, I was literally on a call last night at 9:30 Eastern with a client who was on Pacific time trying to coordinate a call for Mumbai time next week, and I see it every single day. I feel like I spend so much time, spinning the wheel doing this. So, like I said, I'm excited to test it out further. Let me ask this, and this I can cut this if you want me to, but from a feature perspective, I'm going to San Francisco and I say, hey, friends, I'm going to be here. Let's book some time for dinner, coffee, happy hour, what have you. It'd be cool if it doesn't exist already, if it kind of maps out, hey, I'm going to be in Midtown at this time, and then I don't want to have to run all the way down to the financial district, so I want to book meetings in this proximity during this time. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it's funny you say that because
that's probably such a product manager question anyways. This is a typical product manager background to developer, so you could say, hey, that's a stupid idea, but does that make sense?
No, I say it's funny you say that because only a few weeks ago we actually run a hackathon called OSS Hack, all open source companies. We had like 400 people hacking, building these things, and one of the things that somebody actually built is when you book me, because obviously this could be an online location, a Google Meet, a Zoom, something like that. Yeah. But it can also be a physical in-person location. And what this does is, okay, I'm staying here, you're staying there. It's going to then, you can put in, using AI, find me a cheap place to get coffee between the two of us. So it's going to then work out the midpoint, and then it's going to use, intelligence from Google and use AI to pass that stuff. But then it's going to find a cheap coffee shop, or you can throw out some real curveballs, and it will actually, support it. So it will find you that. And then what you can do is it will give you a list of places to check out, and you can open it in a new tab on Google Maps. But if not, you select the place, and you can click this button, automatically schedule it using AI. You hit automatic schedule it using AI, and it will literally, behind the scenes, pick up the phone and call the restaurant or coffee shop or whatever and say, hey, can I make a reservation at 10:30 a.m.? And then the person's like, sure, what name should I book that under? And then it'll be like, oh yeah, the name is Bailey. I was absolutely blown away when this person built it and gave the demo, but safe to say they definitely won a prize in that hackathon. And I hugely look forward to having that fully implemented in cow.com and as part of our sort of like AI suite of offerings.
Too cool. Yeah, it's absolutely wicked. Now, as we round out here, and I'm sure there's a bunch in the pipeline lower down the backlog that you guys have you're thinking through, but are any upcoming products or features that are publicly announced that you're excited for in the new year, or anything in particular that you're really excited that's getting ready to launch that you'd want to pitch and promote here?
100%. So one of the core ideas of cow.com, and one thing that I didn't mention too much, is that part of the pain point with existing scheduling products is it's very difficult to build them into your own platform. And what I mean by that is, scheduling's so core to the world that between healthcare and hiring marketplaces and pretty much most things online, they're going to need to use scheduling behind the scenes. And there's not really many good options out there to build that scheduling into your product, because you don't want to build scheduling yourself. You don't want to build what we've built, to go into your hiring marketplace or to go into your telehealth platform. Because as any decent CTO or head of engineering will tell you, that's going to cost millions of dollars and take many years. Like, scheduling is hard. Don't try and build this yourself. In the same way that, like, you don't go and build your own payment processor for your business. You just use Stripe. You use the out-of-the-box solution. And that's always been something that we've really wanted to build. But obviously, we've just been... And that was very much in the original idea. But as soon as we launched, and then we got, the absolute huge popularity spike and the community loved it, and they kind of like drew us towards building up the consumer product, then for teams, then our enterprise product. And now we're going on to that fourth and final step now, which is our platform product. So we're already starting to see, government healthcare, private telehealth. There are actually governments out there who are issuing passports and ID cards and things like that using cow.com's technology. We see refugee camps using cow.com to schedule, services with refugees. It's huge. We can have a lot of impact by being the scheduling infrastructure that, sits underneath all of the interfaces you know and love. So next time you're booking an Airbnb, a telehealth appointment, a rental car, anything like this, that actually under the hood it's using cow.com to handle all of the rubbish that you need to do to, schedule a meeting, your time zones, your slot logic, that kind of thing. And we're making it dead simple for you to integrate scheduling into your own product. And I'm super excited about that. We've got to build a whole ecosystem. We already have some people using this. It's somewhat of a product already, but within the first quarter of next year, we're going to be making massive strides in this and hopefully become what Stripe is for time. What Stripe is for payments, we become the Stripe for time. Effectively, the infrastructure that powers the scheduling for the whole internet.
Dang, that's so cool. I didn't even think about that use case, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition. Bailey, for you as a founder, you obviously have Pierre to lean on as a co-founder, but who do you look up to as a mentor, as a maybe person of inspiration, as maybe another founder, another entrepreneur, when you're scratching your head on a tough day? Who's inspirational for you as maybe a fellow founder or leader in the space?
I would say I don't look at any one or two people too closely. I'm always the guy of saying, don't listen to just one person, because, half the time we're talking complete rubbish anyway. We like, no matter who you are at what level, you're just pretending to know what you're talking about in some degree. But I got to admit, there has always been this one thing of, I think Elon Musk definitely has this way of like coming into something, approaching a problem, and just being very direct and effective about the way which he does it, which is something that I agree with personally. Like, if I see a problem, I'm just going to be very direct about my way to fix that. That life is just about, let's just see how much potential I can possibly achieve. let's aim high, just keep grinding, keep pushing to achieve as much as possible. So I guess to some degree, if I had to pick somebody, I guess there would be some elements of Elon Musk's drive and attitude that resonate well with me.
No, it's a very fair answer. It's always interesting. Some people give the same answer as you did in the first pace, where it's like, hey, there's no reason to have a mentor or person to look up to, because everyone's kind of just, it's the blind leading the blind, and then other people say, oh, it's absolutely this person. So I always like to ask the question, and maybe as we round out here, you're based in the burbs outside of London. Which football club do you support?
Ironically, I'm one of the only people in the UK that doesn't even watch football, let alone supports anything. I'm a terrible subject of the crown. No football team. I don't drink tea. I think they're going to deport me at some point soon for this. But yeah, football's a good game, but I've never really watched it or supported it.
Yeah. I'll track it. No hard feelings here. I don't have a particular team I support. It's more just a fun question to ask. But Bailey, I really appreciate your time. I know you're extremely busy, and grateful for you walking me through your backstory and Cal.com. Like you said, Cal.com/Bailey to schedule time with you. But where else can folks learn more about you and your business and get in touch?
We have an absolute plethora of content on the Cal.com website to talk about every different use case. So find whatever it is you do on there, and I'm sure there'll be some very useful guidance for how Cal.com can not just serve your use case, but genuinely make your whole workflow better.
Beautiful. Bailey, appreciate the time, and look forward to catching up again here soon.
Thank you.